Before I get started with this show, I just wanted to say that I don't necessarily know what to do, but I do come to a conclusion at the end, which is that I cannot in my head make a proper decision, that I have to, one, write down what I'm thinking, and two, talk over what I've written down with other people, such that we have more of a consensus than we have our own decision. So I'll start with the show, and again, it's just a solo me talking through my thoughts of should I stay or should I go on spring break. I expect that residency in phase two and those interviews will all be by Skype, not putting anyone in danger of travel. And just, if you want to just listen to how I think and what I say, I'm just trying to do the best I can to just kind of talk through the process of what am I going to do given the information I have and with it right now. Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I wanted to talk about coronavirus and what you should do for spring break. And I'm not giving advice, rather, I'm just kind of talking through what I did in my own head in terms of what we are thinking about doing. So we were going to go to Colorado and go to Great Wolf Lodge and see a friend, and then come back, and I fly to DC for APHA, see my childhood home for the last time before my parents sell it and move on to Arizona, and then I would return the following Monday. And I've still got all of these plans, and I want to make sure that the reasons that I have my plans are not necessarily the reasons you keep or break your plans. So first of all, I don't have to pay for APHA in terms of hotel and registration and plane. My school covers that. But even so, the money isn't really the thing. It's just I want to be home to see my family, and I haven't seen them for months and months. And although we've got coronavirus here in Iowa, in eastern Iowa, and haven't seen it, at least I haven't seen it in central Iowa. I know there are now 8 cases, and Kim Reynolds, the governor, is going to be making an announcement at 10:30 a.m. I've seen people being pretty smart about this. And I know we've seen kind of the memes and things about like that about toilet paper and hand sanitizer and how much it costs and those things. And we're seeing, Kevin MD, which is a pretty well-respected blog, compared coronavirus and flu to the number of incidences and things like that relative to, trying to put one relative to the other. And in some ways, besides the fact that they're a virus, you can't compare them because influenza is so virulent, you can't contain it. Where coronavirus, we're hoping that you can. The other thing is the coronavirus and its effect on children, or lack of effect on children, knock on wood. And I just remember seeing this line has not affected any child under 9. And with 3 8-year-olds, obviously that's the most comforting thought that I have in terms of it. But coming back to my rationale for staying or going, so I do want to see my family. They haven't put travel bans, and I feel like they would put travel bans out if they felt it was unsafe. I am going to Colorado with my family and DC, and we don't know what it's going to be like. We have no idea if people are canceling or people are not, and I think there's a reason for that. I think they don't want to create any kind of a panic. Whether justified or not. Obviously, the markets are responding, but the markets are responding to oil, and I believe it's the Saudi Arabian and Russian intentions with the oil, and the fact that as the coronavirus hits, the need for oil is lower because people aren't going to the factories. The factories don't need the oil, and things like that is what I heard. So how do you make a decision for yourself? How do you make a decision whether or not to go do something? And I think the first thing you have to do is take money out of the way. For example, I lost, I think, $15,000 this week or last week, whatever it is in terms of, the stock market. And for whatever reason, I feel that pain. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've lost $15,000. But I never really even noticed the amount of money that I gained. Okay, so what you're feeling when you're deciding whether or not to go is the pain of loss. And as humans, we feel loss in a disproportionate amount to the gain. And there's the YOLO, which is you only live once, and FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And so what you're feeling right now is that you're going to miss out on something, and you might find later on that there was no reason to miss out on it. And you might also find out that you really could have gone and it would have been safe or something like that. And that's the fear that you're feeling right now. But what I would say to you is kind of look at your own situation and say, all right, well, assume that the money was not an issue. Okay? Then what decision would I make? Okay? And that changes things, I think, for a number of people because money should not be an issue. Your health should always be the top priority. As we get older, we recognize this more and more, and maybe people that are younger don't as much. But I would take money out of the equation and say, okay, well, would I make this decision if money weren't an issue? So again, I can't make the decision for you. I want you to have the best information, and the best information is stuff that I'm continuing to read, from around the world, where China is saying, okay, our incidences in the original area are going down, and we're seeing that it's relatively contained, and the people that are getting it have some kind of immunocompromised state, are older, or have gone to regions where they're said you're not supposed to go on cruise ships or something like that. And I guess the fear is, as it was in 2001, where I had to actually drive from DC to Arizona, where I lived, because of 9/11, and all of a sudden, all of the flights shut down. So it might also be a proximity thing. How far are you going? Are you able to take a car if you need one? And my family could let me have one of their cars, and I could, bring it back at a later time. So for me, all of the kind of arrows point in such a way that as soon as the travel ban came, I would accept the travel ban, say, okay, that's it. All right, I'm not going to risk the health of anyone for that. But because I haven't heard that and I don't hear it coming, I'm going to continue my plans. But just as with everyone else and the stock market, everything I think is day to day. So I think if you are inflexible in terms of getting refunds and things like that, so I always fly Southwest, then you may have to consider saying, all right, well, the information I have now, there are too many unknowns. I just have to say no, I can't go. And then taking money out of the equation. But if, on the other hand, you say, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of keep it day to day, and I have the ability to keep it day to day and not worry about cancellations and not worry about cost. And, $15,000 is just not a lot of money to me anyway, so I don't really feel it. So it's really tough for me to make any decisions ahead of time. So what I'm really saying is I'm just going day to day. And my answer today is I'm going to go to Colorado and I'm going to go to DC. And my answer tomorrow, I don't know what my answer is tomorrow. I'll look at everything and we'll see what Governor Reynolds has to say this morning at 10:30. We'll see what's going on in the states that we're going to, and we'll just keep up. And I think that's the fairest thing that I can do, is to continue on with my life as best I can. And if something happens, then I'll certainly make a change as any good health professional would. So again, I can't give you advice, but I can say maybe it's easiest if you actually talk it out with another person or you write it down. I think those are the two best ways to do it. Hey, thanks again for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. I do encourage you to go to residencyhelp.com, get on the mailing list. I'll send you out an email every Friday during residency season, but then afterwards, I'll still have a number of episodes on helping you get through residency itself. And then if you're somebody that's looking at residency in the future, I'll also have content for that as well. If you have a question, I'm pretty good about getting back to you. And if I don't have an answer, I will know someone that does. So thanks again for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please do rate and review. It really matters in terms of our ability to reach more people. Thanks again.